everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonso, William, Jenna. Doctor Who episode 4 of season 34 or season 8 or whatever. Listen, look.
What's that in the mirror or the corner of your eye? What's that footstep following? Never passing by. Perhaps they're all just waiting. Perhaps when we're all dead, out they'll come a-slithering from underneath the bed.
Okay, I have a question since you guys are experts in this sort of thing.
Okie dokie.
I know there's what is it, the Mary Jane is when somebody writes a script. Mary Sue, right, okay.
Yeah, when a character is too perfect for the audience to believe it.
Okay, is there a term for a thing that has never happened before but then becomes essential to the plot? Like the whole thing of Clara sticking her hands into the TARDIS and it following her brain. Is that new? Is that something that they never before?
It's been danced around a little bit before.
Because that suddenly, they were presenting it like, hey, we've never done this before. And then it becomes essential to the end of the episode. I was like, is there a name for this? Because they're doing a thing that they're doing.
That happens a lot in Doctor Who.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, the idea of other people have flown the TARDIS before. Actually, the TARDIS is supposed to be flown by 6 people, which is one of the reasons why it always creaks and whatever. What amazed me was that when she flew the TARDIS, it didn't make the leaving the brakes on noise.
I was sort of expecting that.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Hey, maybe the TARDIS likes her, you know?
No, the TARDIS hates her. We've established this.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Sexy does not like Clara.
No, I know.
The TARDIS's name is Sexy, by the way.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That is an episode. Since we had last week, we had everybody teling you which episodes to watch. You gotta watch. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was written by Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Very
Put it on the list.
But back to this episode.
Yes.
I thought this is, not only is this the first great episode, I think, of the Peter Capaldi era, what I love about this episode is it feels like you couldn't have done this episode with any other Doctor. This episode of him being just very obsessive and not in a creepier than usual way. The idea of you leave him alone long enough, he'll come up with some bizarre theory that he has to fix, and it's all about how the Doctor is kind of wrong. And I think that's something that we've rarely ever had.
Yeah.
Like, he was wrong about like Robin Hood, but who gives a crap? Like this time Steven Moffat has a history of creating monsters that are sort of primal, you know, the Weeping Angels or the Silence.
Oh, the Weeping Angels.
The Silence.
Oh.
And you know, the idea of there's something under your bed, we'll turn that into a great episode.
Yeah.
And here, there's nothing under the bed. That's the kind of genius that he was able to get away with that and still have a great episode.
And the idea of her sort of, you know, going back and reassuring the young Doctor Who the young Doctor, does that a standout kind of unusual thing?
Yes.
I don't think you would be on the receiving end of that sort of
I don't think we've ever seen the Doctor as a child before.
No, and it was really interesting. I mean, I know we are leaning a little heavily on Clara as the impossible girl, and this was sort of like, she's the reason. She's basically the drive, the reason behind all of his drive. That she told him that fear it makes him a superhero, which is weird because she heard it from him, so it's all the weird paradox. But
wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey, that's how that. We should tell you what that is. We'll explain later. But I actually really did like that at the end, and I know a lot of people have been talking about this online, and I haven't gone back to rewatch yet. But the woman who was talking about, who was reassuring him, the couple that walks in, sounded like Jenny.
Interesting.
I have to go back and rewatch it, guys. If you let us know if you think so.
That'd be kind of cute if they did that. They're doing something interesting with Clara. When they introduced Clara, the whole focus was on her being the impossible girl. The idea was it was a mystery as to who she was.
Right.
And now that we finally solved that mystery, only in this season do we get to find out who she is.
Yeah.
And she's very maternal, which is very interesting. Like he had a great line in Into the Dalek where he says, "She's my carer. She cares, so I don't have to."
She smacked him again, by the way.
Of course.
It's not nice for a carer to smack.
I only hurt you because I love.
Speaking of her maternal instincts, do we think that she is Orson's grandmother?
I think it's, I think they leaned pretty heavily on that.
I don't know how coy they could possibly be with that. Like, who else?
Yeah.
What other satisfactory explanation could there be?
Wouldn't he have seen pictures of her?
Possibly,
or
but
if
it's his great-grandmother, how intimately familiar are you with the image of your great-grandmother in her 20s?
Well,
would you recognize her if you ran into her on the street?
But if you had a great-grandmother who lived in an era where people took pictures on their phones, maybe more so? I don't know.
It's possible, but I mean, he did seem to look at her a little strangely, like she looked slightly familiar. Just didn't say specifically, "Oh, you know who you are." And also, if he's a time traveler,
he's probably been warned.
Yeah, you don't say things like that.
Course, yeah.
And I kind of actually like the whole thing with Mr. Pink, because that's what I'm calling him. I like that we're not going to see like a long, drawn-out romance thing, because I think that's one of the things we're leaving behind this season. No boyfriend, doctor, none of, So the fact that you're like, yeah, they're going to end up together. All right, cool.
Great.
Then we don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, I'm fine with that. There's this issue I had at the beginning of the episode where the Doctor's entire theory about the things that are under the bed is based on nature has created perfect hunters, and they show a lion, and it's created perfect defenders, and they show a puffer fish. But there are no perfect hiders. Chameleon?
I was thinking about that
yeah,
too,
that was the
naturally,
first thing I
If your idea of a perfect hunter is just a lion, which good hunter, don't get me wrong, I think chameleon, or like those crazy octopi at like the bottom of the ocean.
Little
Like
fish with the lure on his head. I love
exactly.
that.
Screw it, the silence. The silence is the perfect. The silence is an alien that you forget about if you're not looking at it.
Yeah.
It could be in the room with you, and you'd be like,
If you go into a con and you see people with a lot of like cross-hatching on their arms, like they're counting, that's what they're.
Okay.
That's what
You have a
they're.
long
I
way
was
to
thinking.
go.
I was thinking of that. There's a character in an old Alan Moore in Halo Jones, so the alien that had switched gender so many times that nobody noticed him, her when he was in the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Hey, I have a question. So, if it was Clara and there isn't a creature, then who was under the blanket?
There's a lot of unanswered questions. Not only who was under the blanket, who wrote "Listen" on the chalkboard.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
And that was what's kind of cool about it. Normally, I'd be like, well, that's dissatisfying. Here, I don't know. I like it that it's kind of open-ended.
Yeah, I do too.
There's a genuine creepiness. Every once in a while, Doctor Who tries to whip out a scary episode. Sometimes it works. Usually it doesn't.
Weeping Angels always work.
Weeping Angels always work.
We'll find you some of those.
We'll hook you up. But normally it's just like they did like a haunted house episode last season.
Yeah.
That was okay, but I was never freaked out.
You know how I feel about last season.
This one was
Who were all those
genuinely
other hands on the bed, for
yeah,
that matter?
it was genuinely disturbing. The pacing of it was a lot slower, a lot moodier, a lot creepier, and it left so many unanswered questions that, knowing Steven Moffat, he'll get back to in 8 seasons. But like for now, it works on just this wonderful level.
Yeah, and it did make me think of the silence. And I mean, he's already sort of done that this season, where he had robots where like if you breathe, they know you're there. If you don't breathe, they don't. It's the same thing, like you said, this sort of primal thing. Yeah. Hey, this is totally random and off any subject, but I did want to mention this because I've seen it posted in a lot of different places. People are talking about the fact that Peter Capaldi is wearing a wedding ring.
Is it a wedding ring? I just thought it was a black ring.
Well, it is and it isn't. Peter Capaldi does not like to take off his wedding ring. Oh, it's so sweet. But a jeweler, and I think there's an article on Sci-Fi that talks about this, a jeweler, they sent him something to sort of disguise it and make it a signet ring, and it may end up being in the plot somewhere. So.
Well, I hope they make a plot point out of his like delicious sparkly shirt. Because the doctors tend to have a variation on their costume, and his is he's going to wear like a black shirt with like some glitter on it, and I thought that was just suave.
Oh yeah.
That was some hunky stuff.
Hey, so I'm curious what you guys think about Danny Pink. And oh, by the way, I'm wearing my Oswald Pink shirt. My I Need Space.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
But I think it's since we're obviously going to hook them up, and he's obviously got some kind of interesting past. Is this going to be like a Rory Amy thing? We're giving you more episodes to watch. Is this going to be like he is just as important, he becomes a companion?
Well, I mean, the Doctor already vetoed a companion this season because they were a soldier. Yeah. And we see now that the Doctor once even wanted to become a soldier. And the idea of him wanting to save lives and protect people but without using violence has always been a recurring theme on the show. So putting them together might actually be a very interesting dynamic. And having to let someone into his life, onto the TARDIS, that he would normally never want to talk to. Right. Just because it's Clara's boyfriend, I think that could lead to some very potentially interesting stuff.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Oswin, just saying.
Well, yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I haven't weirdly seen it anywhere, but
well,
I thought it was cute. I thought that was just another indication that they're going to end up together. Yeah.
I need footnotes for this, much like the actual show. But we'll be back next week with more Doctor Who. Check us out.